Hey everybody, TG here, and we're going to be doing the free video for the Options Nightly. It is December 6th, it's Monday, and we've had a decent move up today from a pretty brutal week last week going into the markets. Now, ever since the S&P had crossed over the daily 50, I had been saying at some point the S&P is going to come back and test the daily 50. Now, I did think it was going to happen a little bit sooner. I thought it was going to kind of happen in this area that we were going to start getting down to the daily 50. So it went on for another week or a week and a half until that happened. And the thing on my side, even though I was calling and looking for price to come back down to the daily 50, I didn't know how or why it was going to do it, and the fact that it's doing it based on the news of the day is not so good. So we do have a little bit of the Omicron news out there. That seems to be not as big of a deal as maybe once thought, which is kind of where I was standing. We've been dealing with COVID for 2 years. We've been handling it, and a different variant like this, unless it is radically more deadly or something, it just wasn't going to be a thing. We know how to handle this. What seems to be happening with the hizzy fit of the market is obviously inflation, and then they are tapering. So the Feds are buying fewer bonds, which so there's less free money going into the market, and then also because of inflation, interest rates are going to be moved up probably 2 or 3 times next year, and they might happen sooner than expected. So this is why we are getting a pretty significant move down in the market, despite this on the daily chart for the S&P being, what I was originally looking at is I was looking for price coming down here as a pullback in an uptrend. I mean, it's hard to argue with new all-time highs like this. The problem is that this might, instead of being a pullback in an uptrend, this might be a stop of the uptrend. We don't quite know yet. We're not out of the forest yet either. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get another little bit of a move down that might actually undercut the daily 50 and go a little bit lower. We've seen it before like this. And part of what I want to show you, or the reason for that, if I look at from me for the Moxie way that I trade, is that, and the last time we had this was a pretty good situation. See how we had this big first bounce up over the hourly 50, and the hourly 50 is the magenta colored line. And notice that the Moxie indicator was still below zero. So that's an inverse trampoline move. We are currently in that same situation right now. We have price up over the hourly 50, and the Moxie indicator is very far below zero. So we should not be going up. The market price, whatever, is not ready to sustain a move up yet. Now, it may not go lower than this. It might go lower than this, but I can tell you right now, I am not ready to be bullish right here. What I am prepared for is we could have an undercut like that before we then can move back up. We also have no divergence on the Moxie indicator. And what I mean by that is you can see previously we had a lower low on price, but we had a higher low on the Moxie indicator. We don't have anything yet. So there's nothing constructive here yet. So we are still in chop. We're still in trouble. We're still not out of the woods yet. And so I just want to really make sure there's some caution out there. The other thing I do want to show you is this is an example of the new high, new lows. Look at the 52-week new lows suddenly exploding and really, really taking off. This is pretty rough out there, and I'm concerned that this is going to bring down the rest of the market in time, and that we need to be aware of what's really going on out there. Now, one other thing I will show you, this is the put-call ratio. This was from Friday, so not today, not Monday, but the put-call ratio is also very, very high. Now, sometimes that means they're right, but a lot of times it means that too many people have loaded up short and we're actually closer to a bounce than anything else. So while we are not out of the woods, do keep in mind that we are getting a little bit extended to the downside, and at some point we should bounce, and we need to see where that bounce goes, because that bounce could go up into resistance and we roll over. So, like if we do get a Santa Claus rally, that Santa Claus rally might be up into resistance. If we are going to, if you want to see a couple trades that we might have some possibilities with, Tesla, it has moved back down to the daily 50, which is another thing that I had been calling for. Just like the S&P and just like the NASDAQ coming back down to the daily 50, great. But if it's going to hold and if there's going to be a move, we need to see price get back on top of the 15-minute 50, just like it did here, and use the 15-minute 50 for support to go back up. We're still not there today. As of today, we're not there yet. But if we're going to get a bounce, that's how it's going to begin. Just be careful that this bounce might go up into resistance and we might roll over again. So we really need to be careful out there about what's going on in the market and with these moves. I think we need to be quicker. I think we need to be more nimble. And I think we need to be prepared for bounces possibly going into overhead resistance. Here's another one, AMD, that if it's going to go up, might be at an area to where it's going to bounce. Not quite the daily 50, but it has had a pretty significant move down, pullback. But this isn't going to implode from here usually. What I would usually see is, move like this down, then you get a bounce, and if we are going to go down, then we roll over from there, which means that there could be an opportunity to buy this oversold situation, because you can see price pretty oversold down here. But if we're going to do that, we need to see price get over the 15-minute 50 and then move up along an uptrending 15-minute 50, and then watch out for overhead resistance that might knock price back down again. So, as I said, be careful, be nimble out there, and we'll see you later.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency.
It's one of the things that won me